And do we have, once again, welcome, Coach Roel here, now that we're recording. Andrew, Dominic, I think, Quentin, Laura, and Rob, Rob Lamontagne. Welcome. So I see Andrew's in Oakville. Dominic, where are you from?
I'm from Sarnia, Ontario.
Sarnia. Okay, great. Excellent. And then Quentin and Laura, are you guys able to turn on your webcams or microphone?
Yeah, I'm from just outside Hamilton, Ontario.
Okay, great. Great. Just outside Hamilton. And then Laura, hi, where are you from? Oh, you're still muted. There you go.
Bolton, Ontario.
Boynton?
Bolton.
Bolton. Okay, Bolton. Great. And Rob, where in the world are you? Are you in Ecuador?
Yeah, still in Ecuador until the 17th.
Very cool. Nice. Okay, good. Good stuff. So I'm going to jump right on in and share my, I need co-host stability. I'll share my screen. I'll go through this in a little bit more detail than I usually do in my own trainings, only because I want it to be more interactive. And welcome, Jenilyn. Oh, she didn't hear me yet. Welcome, Jenilyn.
Hi,
good to see you again. Jenilyn has been
good.
to my advanced trainings. Good stuff. So like I was saying, I'm going to go through this case study in a little bit more detail than I normally do. And then I'll go through the numbers as well. Well, the numbers part, I'll go into a little bit more detail. I would like you guys to grill me on this. Okay, so in this day and age of Zoom technology and video conferencing, it's too easy to feel disconnected from everyone and stuff. So if you can keep your webcam on throughout the whole time, if you're listening, and then ask me questions like, how would I put this? Let me just, anyways, there's a lot of things going through my mind.
Can I ask you what
I'm
the
gonna
weather's
just go
like right now?
Would you like to know the weather?
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's just beautiful. What's the temperature here? Let me see if I can get that for you. 72 Fahrenheit. So, here's one fun thing. To convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, there's like it's not an exact calculation, but the mental math is minus 30 divided by 2. So 72 degrees minus 30 is 41 divided by 2. That means it's about 21 degrees right now. Probably it's more like 22, 23. And it's just starting in the morning. It's probably going to hit 90. So 90 minus 30 is 60 divided by 2, about 30 degrees. Yeah. In April, that's no April Fool's joke, right? So actually, I'll tell a little bit off the cuff about my background and how I'm connected with Thrive. So once upon a time, about 10, 12 years ago, I was a financial advisor with Investors Group. And I had survived, actually done really well during the previous subprime mortgage crash in 2008, 2009, because everyone was scared and everyone was moving their money from different Canadian banks to another one, thinking that their financial advisor was terrible. And it was perfect timing for me because my career was just taking off. So a lot of people transferred their money to me as a financial advisor, thinking that, okay, maybe this hotshot kid can help me make more money and fix my RSPs, my retirement savings. So I did really well. And because it's assets under management, my assets under management just ballooned in like 2010, 2011. But at the same time, I was looking at my clients' portfolios and realizing that all their money, like without exception, every single person in my database or in every single one of my clients, because they were all by nature of investing with Investors Group or mutual funds, RSPs, TFSAs, by nature, 99% of people have their money in mutual funds. So when the stock market went down, everybody was just SOL, right? That when the tide goes down, all boats sink with it or go down with it. And that got me to thinking, it's like, I know there's people who make money in down markets. I just didn't know how that worked. And I was really curious about this, and it led me to financial education free seminar used to have live events back in the day. And that was where they got me. It's like, I'm here, picture me, I'm this big shot, division director, middle management, got flown to Tokyo as a incentive trip because I was doing so well in gathering lots of people's assets under management. I had a lot of financial consultants join my division. I was like the poster child for Investors Group, expansion on all fronts. And that's when I got really disillusioned, because after they brought me back from Tokyo, they were like, well, here's your objectives for next year. You're no longer special. It's like, whoa, I thought I was a living legend. You guys were prancing me around the whole company and saying, look, here's what you guys should be doing. Why aren't you like Roel? And then when they brought me back the next year, it's like, well, what have you done for us lately? And I was back at the bottom of the pile. And I was like, this is not why I became a financial advisor. I wanted to have freedom. I wanted to have time freedom. I wanted to work my butt off for the right to be lazy. That's always been my impetus, is I want to work super hard at something so that I could chill the heck out and do whatever I want, whenever I want, and spend it with whoever I want, right? And so that's when I got exposed to real estate investing, financial education, and the sort. Since then, I've mentored under Jack Canfield, under Andy Tanner, and then David Chilton, the author of the Wealthy BRRRR, and became a full-time real estate investor. Realized that when assets go down in price, that's when investors, sophisticated investors, snatch them up and then force the value to go back up again. So fast forward to today, and over $100,000 invested in my own coaches and mentors. Here's what you get today. So sorry if you're disappointed, not that impressive. But the thing is, the philosophy, what you're going to get from me, guys, Andrew, Quinton, Dominic, is I'm a big proponent of investing in Florida, obviously, but my first love is really financial education. So it's just that with Florida, it's very convenient because it's discrete. It's not like learn how to invest in real estate anywhere in the world. It's learn how to invest as a Canadian in Florida real estate specifically. But the stuff that I talk about and how to be able to do it, it's the same stuff that the people at Thrive are sharing with you. So if you guys know how to, if you could take advantage of the resources that Thrive has available, both the free and the paid and the support and the advanced, all those things can be applied to whichever market or whichever lifestyle that you want to be able to apply it to. And I took classes with Rob, actually Shelly was one of my trainers and mentors. Nina I'd met along the way. Kurt was the one that was responsible for assigning me to speak all over the world. I've spoken in Malaysia, Singapore, South Africa, almost every major city in the US, every major city in Canada for sure. And all that stuff was financial education. And then when I looked at myself thinking, here I am traveling the world, preaching to other people about you can do it, take action, invest in real estate, invest in yourself. I looked at myself, I'm still sitting in the cold in Mississauga. I grew up on the mean streets of Scarborough. And even though I was traveling to these exotic places and sometimes warm places in the winters, come back to the Toronto snow in winter, I started questioning myself and my wife. I was like, here I am going all over North America, preaching this stuff. And here we are still sitting in the cold. And so I said, I turned to my wife and I said, if you really wanted to, where would you spend your time? Where would you really like to spend, like physically? Kind of like Rob being in Ecuador right now. It's like winters, I'd love to be somewhere warm. For us, that answer at first was Philippines. We'd actually spent 3 months in the Philippines in 2015, loved it. But my wife got a little bit bored because she needs projects to do. 2 years later, what was that, 2015? 4 years later, we said we want to go back to the Philippines again and cut the trip short. But then we thought, that's to have the sun, sand, and palm trees. That's a big investment. That's like literally 21 hours of flight. Then we thought, well, and I took my education I turned it upon myself and said, Okay, let's be smart about this. What's the quickest, fastest, most efficient way to have what we want in life? So we want to have time freedom, mobility freedom, financial freedom, but also be somewhere nice and warm. So the closest place for us in Toronto is Florida. It's just a 2.5-hour flight, gate to gate from YYZ. Did I say that right? Again, I'm starting to lose my Canadianness. YYZ. From YYZ to MCO, Orlando International, it's literally gate to gate about 2 hours and 15 minutes. So if you jumped on a plane right now, in about 3 hours, I could be shaking your hand, and then 1 hour drive, we could be on the Atlantic coast, dipping our toes in the ocean. So it's so close to Canada. And so all that to be said, there's a lot of benefits. What you're going to get from me is, number one, the lifestyle. You know, you don't have to have $1 million to be able to get the lifestyle that you want. You just need enough to be able to free up your time so that you can then work on other projects that will continue to help you move forward. So here's my big sales pitch. Take micro steps forward. You know, stop just thinking about it, waxing philosophical. Actually think about what it is you want your lifestyle, your work-life balance to look like. And then what's the quickest, fastest, most efficient way to get there, right? So that said, let me jump in and I'll go through the pictures and then go through the numbers. And as I'm going through this, please make sure that you're taking note of your questions, because then after I go through this, I don't really have much more to talk about. So it's going to be very boring if you don't have questions for me. So Kurt, can you see my screen okay? Came
Yes,
in
I
way
can.
the house that credit cards paid for?
Yes, I can.
Thanks. Okay. So here's the story. Let me set this up. This was 2019. My wife and I, we'd already relocated our family. I'm looking at my little toddler here. It's just us. It's daddy day Saturdays. So 2019, we're already here in Florida, and literally all of our liquid cash is already out there invested. We're enjoying really good cash flow with a bunch of short-term rentals. And this property, this deal was brought to us. We didn't have to go out looking for it. Somebody brought it to us. That's a big specific detail about deal flow. You want to set up your networks so that off-market deals are brought to you. So I'm sure you guys know about wholesaling. If not, make sure to talk to Kurt about how to get into the wholesaling class. But a wholesaler basically brought this off-market deal to us. And we had no cash in the bank. Well, a little bit, but we had cash flow. And we're just enjoying life. But I kind of made the mistake of analyzing this property because, and this is what happens, be careful what you look for, you just might find it. And so I was looking at this one and just thought, okay, well, as a lark, let's see what this is all about. This one it's in Winter Park, which is like, kind of like a Rosedale of Toronto, but on a smaller scale. So Winter Park has this reputation of being kind of a higher end neighborhood, not as high as a Rosedale, but you know, a bit of a wealthier area. So this property was on the cusp of Winter Park. And now Winter Park, the weird thing about Florida for Canadians is we have things here called counties. I know you've heard of this, but I didn't know what a county was when I first came down, even 5 years ago. So there's the country is one municipal division. Then there's individual states. Then there's the counties, and then there's the cities. So cities are smaller than counties, and a city can actually straddle 2 different counties. So this property in Winter Park was the wealthy part is in Orange County. Okay, that's like the majority of Orlando. So the wealthy part of Winter Park, where this property is in Orange County. This actual property was not in the wealthy part, as you could probably surmise from that picture. It was in the Seminole County, but it's very close to the wealthy area. Long story short about that is, this was strategic. This was the interesting opportunity about this is I also like to tell people, put yourself in the path of opportunity. Don't jump to where the opportunity is right now. Places like Toronto, downtown Manhattan, like that's already matured. You got to go to the areas where progress is going to be. It's like what Wayne Gretzky used to say. You got to skate to where the puck is going, not to where the puck is. So that's what also attracted me to this one, is because yes, it's in Winter Park, but it's in kind of like the less wealthy area of Winter Park. The wealthy area of Winter Park was expanding. People were getting pushed out. Sound like a familiar story? People are getting pushed out because of the high prices in Winter Park. So they're moving out to a place like this, which is still Winter Park. It has that prestige of, oh, you have a Winter Park address. Yeah, but it's in the Seminole County side, so it's a little bit ghetto. Anyways, that's the first thing that caught my attention. It's like, oh, it's a very cheap Winter Park property. Number two was the money in the buy. The money in the buy that we were able to get. Okay, so actually, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let me give you the pictures and then we'll get into the numbers. So when we first inspected this property, it was still off market. And the way they do it is, it's similar to Canada, is if you put a deposit down first, you can lock it up. They don't give you any contingencies, no subject to this or subject to that. It's like, if it's wholesale, first one to bring their money gets the deal. So we inspected it, it looked like that. And when we were finished marketing it, or when we were ready to market it, that's the after picture. Okay. And if you can picture going through that front door and then turning left, that's the first bedroom. Oh, let me give you, it's a middle unit townhouse, a row house, nothing special whatsoever, but I made a whole bunch of money off of this. 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, single level floor, middle unit, flat roof, very not sexy at all. 1 bathroom, 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, which is weird because that's just how the inventory was here, I guess, building in the 80s, 90s. And so we went to go take a look at it. And you turn left, there's that front bedroom right there before. And then when we were done and ready to market it, that's what it looked like afterwards. Now, write this one down. I don't know if you guys got this before, but here's the secret to simple renovations: painting, flooring, and landscaping. If you're just starting out with buy, fix, and sell, or the BRRRR method, or even flipping, those 3 things will make you tons of money: painting, flooring, and landscaping. The 3 highest return renovation activities you can do. Here's the 3rd bedroom at the back, before and then after. Notice that again, painting, flooring, and the backyard was cleaned up. And then he took professional photos. Here's the grand room in the middle, high ceilings, natural lighting. And then when we staged it for sale and for rent, that's what it looked like after. Here's the laundry room, or laundry closet. Cleaned it up, put in some brand new but cheap appliances. Very presentable. Here's a fixed, a built-in shelving in the master bedroom. When we staged it, it looked like that. There's a highlight, skylight, natural lighting above as well. And here's the 1 bathroom. So 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom. And then when it was staged, that's what it looked like. So here's the key to this bathroom renovation: the vanity, IKEA. The mirror there was from Target, and the light fixture, David, Home Depot. The rest of it, just cleaned it and then took some professional photos, and it looks gorgeous. Here's the kitchen. So we own a kitchen remodeling business down here, which we acquired, we purchased. And but we renovated this kitchen before that business, because we had done like dozens of kitchens and renovations in Canada, as well as in Orlando, prior to buying our kitchen remodeling business. And but I digress. That's the after photo. So some people might think that's a weird looking kitchen, like it's shiny, flat blue, and you put granite countertops in an ugly property like this. Well, yes, because remember, it's right on the cusp of the wealthy area of Winter Park. And our educated guess as an investor was, hey, the prices just down the street are skyrocketing and people are getting pushed this way. So we need to, even though this unit is not that pretty on the outside, we need to make it nice on the inside, because that's the clientele that's going to be pushed out. And it worked out well when I show you the numbers. There's the other side of that kitchen. And we did granite countertops, shiny blue cabinets. This is probably the most drastic change and the most dramatic example of painting, flooring, and landscaping. So that's about a year or two's worth of neglect on the left. And then when we fixed it up, all we did was we paid someone. I didn't do it. We paid someone to just clear the floor, scrub it, hose it down, power wash the wood. And I didn't even know there was a wooden deck underneath all those twigs and branches there, and power wash the wood, the post there, the trellis, and then painted the fence, took some nice professional pictures, and it looks gorgeous. So now the numbers. We had two different strategies going into this. One was buy, fix, and sell. If we don't get the numbers that we want there, then we'll switch to buy, fix, and hold. Okay. So once again, we didn't have the cash to do this. It was being offered to us at $106,000. Now, that was just back in 2019 in Orlando proper. So you're not in the boonies, like in Northern Ontario, some middle of, buttfuck nowhere. Sorry for my language. But you're in an actual city, $100,000 property, 3-bedroom, 1 bath. You saw it. That's the kind of prices that existed here. And they're not that much different 4 years later, 3 years later, right? But this is 2019. So again, it's off-market deal. The ARV, if you're tracking with me, the ARV at the time it was brought to us was 145,000. Okay, that was the present moment. However, this was 2019. This is pre-pandemic. Knowing what I know, what I learned through classes like you can take at Thrive, right? Basic real estate investing courses, all of that put together, I felt like this, not only are we making our money in the buy, but we're also put ourselves in a good position to experience appreciation. We don't invest specifically just for appreciation. We invest for money in the buy today and cash flow today. If market appreciation happens, great, we'll take it. That's where you have to position yourself as, okay, I need to, rule number one, make money in the buy, have a plan to add value, and then is this going to cash flow from day one? On top of all that, is this in a position that has a high likelihood of appreciating in value? So all of those things check the boxes. This ugly little pipsqueak of a property. So here's the analysis: 106,000 purchase price, which included the wholesale fee. Actually, the wholesale fee was 6,000. The purchase price was 100. Purchasing costs 3,500. Renovation 30,000. And actually, this was the actual numbers that I updated afterwards. When I was just analyzing this, our renovation estimate was about 12 to 15,000. There were 2 leaks in the roof that we assumed were going to be taken care of by the HOA, the homeowners association, because we had just gone through a deal where it was just similar to that. The seller did not want to bother going against the HOA, trying to ask them to pay for it and all. So we said, we'll still buy. This is a different property. We'll still buy that property, but we're going to ask for another $8,000 credit so that we're going to have to be the ones to go battle the HOA. Well, they said, okay, fine. We'll give you the $6,000 credit we settled on. Just buy the property. So we got an even further discount. So this is the deal we just came out of. And we bought the property, called the HOA, and it was just easy peasy. They said, sure, just show us your receipts and we'll reimburse you. The seller didn't even want to try calling the HOA to work out how they're going to fix the leak in their roof. So when we saw this, 2 leaks in the roof, we're like, oh, no problem. We just did this. So we'll buy it. We'll fix the roof leaks, but then the HOA is going to reimburse us just like our last deal. Well, it turned out that they didn't cover the leak. So that was our mistake. We make mistakes sometimes still, but we typically only make them once and then never again. So that's why our renovation costs from our estimate ballooned from $12,000, $15,000 to double that much. But fortunately, we made our money in the buy. So even if the property did not appreciate, we could still just break even and then cash flow this on a rental. So the actual renovation cost turned out to be $30,000 because of the roof leaks. But all the cosmetic stuff that you saw was like easily 12 to 15 max. Holding costs during the renovation period is $760 for 4 months. And then if we were to sell, the selling cost would basically be the realtor's commissions, 15 grand, right? And wouldn't you know it, actually, sorry, let me back up. Again, the story is, we felt by the time 4 months had passed and it's ready to go, the market had appreciated. And so as investors, we always like to push the envelope. We're like, this is not worth 145 anymore. In 4 months, mind you, we bought it in like January. So January, February, March, April. April of 2019 was when we're ready to put on the market. And spring is, when is the high season for real estate. So when it was finally ready to list, it was no longer 145. I felt like it was worth 195. Okay. That's the beauty about these little properties. It's like, you could buy them with the change you find in your couch practically. So it was like no big deal for us to say, okay, let's just go give it a shot. And where was I going with that? So we listed it, we felt it was worth 195. We listed it for 199. Okay, 199,000 is what we listed it for. We actually did get a willing buyer to offer us 195, and we accepted that offer. We signed it. And we're like, great, this is going to be a nice, tidy little flip in 4 months. So the buyer was like a first-time home buyer. So kind of like a CMHC first-time home buyer where you can put down, I think, what is it still 5%, Kurt, for first-time home buyers under the CMHC? So similar to that, in the US, they have a first-time home buyer similar program where they can put 3% down. But then the lenders for FHA first home buyers, Fair Housing Act, first-time home buyers, they're a lot more conservative. So they basically appraised the property, even though we have a willing buyer and a willing seller agreed at 195. The lender comes in and says, no, we feel it's only worth 188. So we came to an impasse with the buyer's agent. He's like, how about you bring your price down from 195 to 188, and then we can finance this deal and get it closed and off your hands. I said, no. How about you tell your buyer to add an extra $7,000, which you said you had from the beginning, because they show this proof of funds letter and all that stuff to get their offer accepted. You said your buyer says they have an extra $12,000. How about you use 7 of that 12 and bring your purchase price up, or bring that to the table so that you can close on the number that we agreed upon. So long story short, we released them, gave them back their deposit, full refund, no problem. We'll switch to our plan B, which I'll show you in a moment. So just to show you on these numbers, if we had sold and stuck with the buy, fix, and sell, we would have still had a net profit of $32,762. Now that would have been great for most people. It's like, let's move on. Let's take that money and let's go on to the next deal. But we were like, we had a bunch of cash flowing properties. We did not need to sell. And I also had 2 plans worked out already. So I was like, well, if we're not going to get the number that we want, we don't need to sell. Talk about being a badass, right? You don't have to take a haircut if you don't need to, if you have a backup plan. So another lesson there is never be a motivated seller. Never be a motivated seller, right? We had a bunch of cash flowing properties. This one, sure, we could have made a little bit of money if we flipped it, but we could make a lot more if we held on to it. So that net profit would have been $32,762 had we sold. Before I get onto our plan B, let me share with you how we were able to finance this one. That's key. $106,000 purchase price. If we try to put down 20%, no lender is going to lend us $80,000 to do this deal. Like, it's too small. And so that's one thing. The other thing was, remember, we only had a couple $1,000 liquid cash in the bank. But this deal was ready to go. And so I turned to I had a discussion with my wife. It's like, well, are we going to pass this over? I mean, by my calculation, we're going to be able to make, even without the appreciation, we're going to be able to make a quick 20, 30 grand with a little bit of market appreciation in 4 months. That was my initial estimate, a little bit of money. And so instead of saying we can't do the deal because we don't have money, we went back to our training back in the day when I trained with Shelly, with Kurt, with Rob, and with Rob. Our training was, you never settle for I can't, or that's not possible. That's too risky. You always ask, how can I? What can we do? Is there another way? You got to use your brain to really like get somewhere. If you're going to be flaky and then just give up at the first sign of adversity, real estate investing, entrepreneurship is not for you. Just go and stick with your day job, right? But I know you guys are investors and aspiring investors, so I'm giving you a little bit of tough love right now. And so, okay, this is a big challenge. Like, we don't have liquid money in the bank. How can we do this deal? Even if we had 20, 30% down payment, what kind of lender is going to lend us a $60,000, $70,000 loan? That's not even worth their time. So what did we do? We looked back to our Canadian lines of credit and credit cards. And this is a crazy concept that I know a lot of people will push back and they're like, I'm trying to get out of debt. I'm not trying to get into debt. But this is a different kind of debt. This is debt as leverage. So we had like a whole bunch of Canadian credit cards, lines of credit, even our HELOC, free and clear. But they're in Canadian funds. So I did a calculation. I said, well, honey, I said to my wife, honey, well, what if we actually took a cash advance on a bunch of these Canadian credit cards? And then even a little bit off of our lines of credit or HELOC if we needed to, right? The first plan was to buy, fix, and sell. So after we flip, we'll take that money and we'll put it back to our credit cards in Canada. That was the initial plan. But then when we didn't get our price, we're like, yeah, we want to pay off our credit cards in Canada. If we flip this, we'll pay that off quickly. But then we're kind of shortchanging ourselves. We know that there's an extra, at least 15 grand, if not more, to be made. So we stuck to our guns. We said, you know what? We'll go to our plan B. We're not going to flip. We're now going to rent it out. And that's plan B. So remember, clock is ticking. It's costing us about $1,100, $1,200 per month in interest because we did cash advances. And now a lot of you are going to be thinking, oh, that's crazy. I can't. Yeah, I'm not trying to pay $1,200 in credit card debt every single month. But when you know what we know, me, Rob, Kurt, Rob, Shelly, none of this stuff is intimidating. It's just like you can keep yourself safe with the first move is when you buy. Money in the buy is the reason for that being rule number one is to keep you safe. So we made a ton of money in the buy, plus we had a plan to add value, plus we had looked at the market rents, plus we can see the path of progress coming in our direction. We're like, let's keep it going for a little bit longer. We don't need to rush to pay off our credit cards in Canada. So that brings us to plan B. And now buy, fix, and hold, these numbers are going to be very similar to the previous one, the previous slide you just saw. So same purchase price, same purchase cost, renovation, holding. And I'll even give you the benefit of the doubt by using what I think is an inaccurate appraisal of 188,000. I remember my analysis is it's worth 195 at this point. And we had a buyer agree to that. So that's the only kind of validation I need. But even at the 188 valuation, because we're not selling, we literally increased our balance sheet by 47,742 out of thin air. Remember, we did not trade hours for dollars to save up a down payment to buy this property. We borrowed it. So instantly we were able to have this money. We didn't have to fill out an application and ask a lender, please check my credit score. I'm good for it. No, we had money instantly. Tax-free dollars because we borrowed it. And literally there's an unlimited amount of money in the world that you can borrow. You just have to pay the price, right? And then this is another huge sticking point for real estate investors is they don't want to pay the price when really they haven't done what they're responsibility as an investor is rule number one, at least in my book, is make money in the buy. So if you can make money in the buy, everything else is easy. So keep in mind how much money in the buy we made here, right? So we bought this property, 106,000. That just means we need temporary money, even if it's at a high interest rate. We just need temporary money to force the value up, and then we're going to BRRRR it, which we'll get into in the next slide, and pull out the money and cash flow the thing. Okay, so again, this is the second part of the first slide of the second plan B, which is buy, fix, and hold. So at this point in time, we literally increased our net worth by 47,742. Then, oh, here's a quick analysis on that. The total cash invested, and I put that cash in quotation marks because we didn't have cash. We borrowed the money, remember, from credit cards. In total, we brought down probably about just shy of 200,000 Canadian, which worked out to be 140 US. And so remember, again, the clock is ticking because we're paying through the nose our interest rates for borrowing this cash. So that's where we're at this point. Then we had to get a tenant. Remember, again, the story is Winter Park, wealthy area. We're right on the edge of the gentrification, basically, of the outlying areas. And you saw the pictures. It's beautiful. So we ended up getting a Class A tenant. He was an entrepreneur himself. He had just sold his $500,000 home, and he was waiting for his $1 million custom home to be built. He just needed a place to stay that was kind of close to his old stomping grounds in Winter Park and close to his business. And so he said, yeah, it's great. I love what you did with the place. It's just me and my wife now. We don't have kids. So we just need a place for maybe 10 to 12 months. And we like the fact that this is newly renovated. No one's ever lived in it. And it's just a place we're going to live for a little bit. So he took our asking price of $1,650 per month. That right there exceeds the 1% rule. What is the 1% rule? $1,650 divided by the total cash invested from the previous slide, 140,000. Kurt, did you guys go over the 1% rule enough with everyone?
We have talked about it on calls. I think most will be familiar, but if you want to go through it quickly just to make sure everybody's up to speed.
Okay. Can you guys see my calculator?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So $1,650 monthly rent. This is not projected. This is actual. We got someone to sign a lease. Divided by how much money did we put into it, even though it was all borrowed money? 140,000. Times 100 to give ourselves a percentage. There's your 1.18%. So that's the 1% rule. And the reason why that's significant is if you can just do that quick mental math by getting the market rents and all the money that you put into the property, purchase and renovations and everything, if you exceed the 1% rule, chances are it's going to cash flow positive. And that's exactly what it did, because I'll show you the numbers. $1,650 monthly rent, minus property taxes per month, insurance, HOA, property management fees, because I'm not taking those phone calls. I bake into the management so that they can make this a passive investment for me. That means a net operating income of $1,204 per month. Now, NOI is basically your return if you had no debt on the property. Okay, so an NOI of $1,200 per month plus a cap rate of 10% per year. Now we're getting into commercial. This is like more Kurt analysis, commercial property type of education. When you have an NOI of $1,204 per month and a cap rate of 10%, doesn't matter if it's a single unit, family unit like this, or 100 units, a 10% cap rate is a 10% cap rate. It's pretty darn good. That's good. That's a good use of your money, basically. Okay. So once we got the tenant in there, this is the part I don't usually cover off in my trainings. Once we got the tenant in there, we have a lease and we have an appraisal for 188. So at the time we got the lease, we got a new appraisal because like, screw that 188 BS. We got it appraised for the real 195 that we believed it was. It didn't hurt that it was a month later. And we have a tenant in there. So we found our own lender to do the refinance. So we got full value, and were we lucky? Because remember, at first I was only projecting 145, and then we had the roof repair to eat. But then also it's Winter Park, and 5 months later, progress has happened. And so now this property now has gone from 145 ARV to 195 in the span of 5 months. Were we lucky, or were we just smart? Right? All of this is by design, guys. Right? And the good thing is that we took action on it. So we got it reappraised for 195, refinanced it, pulled a whole bunch of money out, paid off our credit cards in Canada. We're square there, no longer any debt service there. And then we had extra money left over to buy another property, to rinse and repeat. Again, make the money in the buy, add the value, hold for cash flow, reappraise, refinance, rinse and repeat, right? And the cool thing is about this is technically when at advanced levels, if you guys don't understand this already, technically this is infinite returns. This is not just a great, 100% plus annualized return. Technically, it's an infinite return. And with that, I want to open up to questions. And check with you guys, actually, do you guys understand the concept of infinite returns? If not that, any questions regarding anything that I've talked about? Let's open up our microphones and have a conversation here.
Okay, Roel, I know there's a couple questions further up. So I'm going to start with those first and let people kind of think about what they want to ask.
Yeah,
So
please,
this
if you
is
could.
from Gentlemen, I have been putting offers in Orlando for vacation rental under 500,000, and one of the due diligence is one of the property that I like turned out to be not possible for short-term rental, but minimum of 1 year lease. Listing agent has a misrepresentation. What are the other precautionary measures to know more on that? Is there any app or public info to know aside from a dependent realtor? And I assume that's referring to whether or not they can do short-term rental in specific areas.
Yes, gentlemen, just call up the HOA and then ask them. So here's what I'll talk about in terms of short-term rentals. For the whole state of Florida, short-term vacation rentals are legal. They are allowed, they are legal. Then you have the different counties. The counties are in kind of arguments with the state as to where to allow short-term rentals. So on the county level, they're more concerned about they don't want short-term rentals in their counties. They want residents, because residents live there, work there, spend money there. Whereas vacationers, they're in and they're out. They just use the resources and they leave. So counties prefer to have residents, and then cities as well. So these are all government arbitrary lines, governmental lines. So state lines, county lines, city lines. But then you also have the subdivision, the HOA or the condo association. HOAs and condos are not government organizations. So they are the end all and be all. They're private. So in this neighborhood where I live, there's an HOA. If they say no short-term rentals allowed, then no short-term rentals allowed. I don't care about outside the fence. If they allow it in the next subdivision over or outside in the rest of the state, in this subdivision, it's not allowed. So gentlemen, the final word is talking to the HOA, if there is an HOA. If there is not an HOA or a condo association or a COA, as they call it, if there isn't an HOA, then it's just about what the city's stance on it. In Orlando, the stance is they regulate. They don't disallow short-term rentals, but they heavily regulate it. So that's how they're able to get push there. That's how the cities and the counties are able to try to push their agenda against the state. So remember, the state, if it was up to the state, every property would be allowed to do a short-term rental. So the city of Orlando in particular, and you can always find this, just Google it on the internet. But last I checked, Orlando, City of Orlando says you can do short-term rentals in Orlando. You just have to live in 51% of the house. So you can only do part of your house. Now, beyond that, you didn't hear it from me, but it's complaint driven. No one's from the government is going to look up Airbnb listings and say, hey, there's a property listed in Airbnb in Orlando proper. I'm going to go contact that person and bring them to jail. That doesn't happen. They don't have the resources. They don't care. But if you piss off your neighbors and they say, hey, you're in an area where you're in Orlando and you're Airbnb this property and it's bugging me because we're getting partiers coming in and whatever, I'm gonna report you, then you're kind of SOL, right? So buyer beware, or that's a business choice on your part. I think I saw Wendy's hand go up. No? Okay. So Jenilyn, did that answer your question? I guess she can't turn on her microphone. I'll throw it back to you, Kurt. Can you actually, how about you feed me the questions? It'd probably be faster.
Yeah, that was the only question in chat other than where do you buy or trade Canadian dollars to US dollars? Rob answered he uses Nightbridge for large amounts.
Yes, same here.
Okay.
That's really great.
That's all from chat. So we'll open up. If you guys have questions, just unmute yourselves, or you can also type in the chat at any time with questions and take advantage of the 10 minutes we have with Coach Roel.
Yeah, anything. You guys are already multi-gajillionaires in real estate. What's holding you back? If I don't have a question, I'm gonna volunteer some new faces I haven't seen here before. Wendy's got her hand up. Oh, you guys are lucky. Wendy volunteered to speak.
I'll save the rest of you for a second. What's stopping me is knowing the rules and how to do it from Canada to US and taking your money into there, doing a core, all that knowledge and bringing money back to Canada and taxes and all that. That's what stops me, is the legalities and how to do that. It's not like the strategy that you're doing, because it sounds great, but it's all that legalese in between.
Yeah, and that's a really important point. I know it must be on a lot of people's minds. If not, then once they've heard it from you, Wendy, it's like, yeah. How do I do that? I would honestly say that the taxes part and all that is kind of 3 or 4 steps down the line. I would say, and let me address that part first. The long and short of it is there is no one size fits all. There is definitely stuff to avoid. Actually, that's on my next slide. And I'll go over this really quick. Wasting time looking at properties. Like, don't make these mistakes. If you fail to plan to fail. Make sure you have some kind of methodical steps that you're going to follow. Don't just be like spray and pray and hope we'll figure it out. Coming to Florida too soon, saying, oh, I'm going to go take a look and buy a property down in Florida, not having some kind of plan in place, overpaying for a property, even though it's super cheap compared to Canada, you could still overpay for a Florida property. So be careful. Like, you think, oh, I found a condo for $150,000. Like, oh my gosh, how could you go wrong with that? But then every other condo recently sold for $99,000. Well, dude, you overpaid still. Okay, so that's a big mistake. I've seen that. Buying in your personal name, to Wendy's point, that's a huge. Please, if you're not going to take additional education, then please pound the pavement. And long and short of it, Wendy, is talk to a cross-border CPA. Right. So I don't know. Have you done that yet? Have you spoken to a cross-border CPA or a lawyer? Right. I mean, when I was here in your position 6-7 years ago, that's what I did. It's like, I don't know. There's nobody who offers a program on how to do this. So where do I find the answer? I went back to my training from, the days that I was there arm in arm with Rob and Kurt and Shelley. And what they taught us was you find the professionals. So find a cross-border CPA, find a cross-border lawyer, try to get 20-30 minutes of free discovery time to see if you get a feel for them. But then if they're not giving you the answers, then ask them, well, what's your hourly consultation fee? Right? And then pay them. That's what we did. And what I'll tell you now is after several hours of interviewing many people, we did get very different opinions. And the one that you'll probably get, and I'll give you a starting point, it's kind of like giving gasoline and matches to kids, not that you guys are children or whatever, but it's kind of dangerous. But most people will give you the GP LP structure. You have a US entity as your general partner, and then you as the Canadian is the limited partner. But then there's literally 5 different annual tax obligation filings in the US alone to be able to do that. And that's also assuming that you want to repatriate the money back to Canada. Right? And then you open up a whole other can of worms. And it's like, well, then well, five income tax filings every single year with that classic GP LP structure. How much does that cost? Well, it varies from accountant to accountant. So you're going to have to check that out. And then so you go down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out all the taxes and, oh, there's FERPTA. What if I sell? What about withholding tax? My property manager said, since I'm a Canadian, I can't touch any of the money that they collect. I have to actually file once a year. And then when they feel like they're compliant, then they're going to give me 1 year's worth of rent afterwards. So that's reality, is that's the answers. That's the things you got to consider. So when I was putting out my programs together, and yes, this is a bit of a pitch, but it's not meant to be a pitch. I put everything aside and said, what's the quickest, fastest, most efficient way to help people get launched, right? And number one is do what you can from Canada. You don't have to jump on a plane, get your boots on the ground support. And you can do that by Zoom, by phone call, by email. Oh, very convenient. Actually, here's the next slide. I literally did not set this up this way. This is just an old presentation. But these first 4 steps, and please write these ones down if you're serious about this. It's quite simply find the money, meaning figure out your financing. Are you going to get it from a HELOC? Are you going to do a joint venture? Are you going to liquidate some other investments? Figure out your money situation. That's number one. Interview loan originators, mortgage brokers, bankers, etc. So find the money. 2, choose a market. You really got to narrow it down to 1 city, ideally 1 zip code. Okay, don't be like, oh yeah, Tampa would be nice. Maybe Cape Coral, maybe Boca Raton, or Miami. That's always sexy. No one can help you. You got to focus, right? Get it down to 1 zip code ideally, or at least 1 metro area. So that's step 2, choose the market. 3, build a power team. Reach out to CPAs, reach out to lawyers, reach out to people listing properties, real estate agents, post in Facebook groups, pound the pavement, have these conversations, send the emails, get to know people, get them on the phone, get them on a video call. And then number 4, find a property. Zillow, wholesalers online, Redfin, Trulia, all these things. There's so many. By foreclosure lists. I mean, all of this stuff is Googleable, right? But notice this on what you see in front of you, those first 4 steps, they can all be done from the comfort of your home. But are you doing it? That's where you look in the mirror and it's like, I got to be honest with myself, right? So all these resources are available. They're doable. They're realistic. The ones I showed you on the screen right there doesn't cost you any money to do, but you just got to do it, right? Have those conversations. And that's where a big reason why I'm here today, because I was talking with Rob Godet and Kurt a couple of days ago. And to give, if anything, this is the pitch I want to give you, is Wednesday night in my Snowbird investor community, I'm holding like a free coaching session, like a town hall, similar to this, but there are a couple of people who said they volunteered to be coached live in front of everybody else. So it's going to be a bit of a spectacle. If you would like to hop in on that, that would be great. And if there's time, even volunteer yourself, and I'll do some coaching with you guys live to get past your whatever obstacles may be blocking you. But what I will say though too is chances are, I've been doing this long enough, like over 15 years coaching, actually almost 20 years if you can include Investors Group. Chances are it's not what you initially think it is. It's not like, oh, but I don't have money. Oh, but I don't know how to find deals. Everything's too expensive. Those are like lower level stuff. It's probably something that's more mental, cerebral. Like it's fears from your childhood or something, or it's like this belief that there's not enough money in the world. You know, things like that. So that's what we're going to dig into on Wednesday night. But I see your hand. Oh, is that Rob? iPhone? Sorry, what's your name? iPhone with your hand up.
In mute. I'm not sure who that is either. Hey, you're in the car.
Hi,
Is
what's
that
your
me?
name?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, my name didn't come up. Sorry about that. My name's Paul. Glad to be here. Thank you very much for the webinar. I wanted to ask a question about what was the difference between your forced appreciation from your renovation and the appreciation from the purchase price, the value?
What was the difference? So we were able to, I would say 50,000 of market appreciation. Because we when we acquired the property in January of 2019, I had estimated that it was worth 145.
Yep, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, my pleasure. Is everybody comfortable with borrowing money to invest? Does anybody have something they can't get their head around about that? Yeah, we're all cool with borrowing money to invest? Oh, that's my daughter. Touching my mouse there. David, I can see the look on your face that there's like the gears are going. Thank you for keeping your webcam on. This is why I like it, because I'm very sensitive to micro expressions of people. So what's holding you back, David? What would you say if you could just solve this one thing, then you would fly forward and move freely towards your goals?
Well, for me, first of all, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And for me personally, I would say capital is one of them for sure. And also the economic state of the US right now kind of scares me. I heard that apparently 3 banks failed in the past month or so. So that also is kind of like a big worry of mine. And interest rate as well. So
okay. Interest rate being what? It's expensive to invest?
exactly. But
okay.
I love the point that you mentioned earlier about paying the price to borrow. That's a really good point, actually, to be honest. So
yeah, and I'm thank you for sharing that those personal concerns of yours. And this is exactly what I want to get into, and we'll get into it more on Wednesday night if we can't do it all here today. But quickly, I want to address that is, how is it that these investors are able to pay 10, 12, 15, sometimes 20% on borrowed money and still be able to make a profit? Have you ever wondered that, David? The reason why, let me just jump in, sorry, is because they made so much money in the buy, or their plan to add value is so great, or they know how to cash flow the deal, or all three. Okay, so it's not the cost of capital, it's the availability. So us as the investors, if you're looking at I'm going to use Florida numbers, and these are real numbers, right? If I'm going to look at a condo for $200,000 after repair value, market value is $200,000, and I purchase it for $200,000, right? I sign a contract, I get an accepted offer, and it works cash flow wise with a 30% down payment, let's say. Now, at this point, what if the original lender gets cold feet, or for whatever, they don't like the fact I'm a foreign national, I'm buying in an entity, and they're like, we're not going to do this. But you know it's going to cash flow really well because of your education and your knowledge. Then you got to go out and be like, how can I find money, somebody who can close within the next 2 weeks? Well, there's lots of people who could fund that deal for you, but they're going to still want to see 20 to 30% down from you. Okay, you've got that ready. But then also, because it's such a short, it's basically bridge financing, they're probably going to charge you 10, 12, 15% plus lender points. Now, because, and I'll just I'll just be blunt. I'm not saying that you are dumb or anything like that, but this is just about my frustration. I want to speak freely. But because this is what people have come to me with their problems, and they say your stuff doesn't work. You're scamming. Well, this is someone else. You should not have bought it at fair market value because now you can't afford to close on it with bridge financing. Had you gotten that same property, market value 200, if you were able to get it for 150, then the property can afford double-digit bridge financing. You can afford to borrow this expensive money at 10%, pay 4% points upfront, fix it, force the value from 150 back to 200. Maybe you got a little bit of market appreciation in that time, and then reappraise it, pull out all that money, pay back the bridge financer, and then replace it with a 6, 7, 8% long-term mortgage. So the key, the linchpin for that whole thing was don't buy at full market value. That's the biggest mistake. And then people are saying, well, there's no discount, there's no deals to be found. Well, where are you looking? Oh, on MLS every single day. It's like, come on, man. That's retail. You're an investor. Why are you shopping in a retail store? You're supposed to be going wholesale, go off market, or learn how to do lease options, or learn some other cash flow strategy, or learn creative finance with Rob, right? Like all this stuff is out there. And so thank you for allowing me to speak freely on this stuff. But it's not the tool. It's like, oh, if I just had nice earbuds, then I could be this. No, it starts inside your brain, right? Like, what's your belief about money? So I know I'm sounding a little bit hostile, but David, I love the fact that you're opened up. So let me address the other things that you said. So the economic state of the US, 3 banks have failed. Sure, but you know what all the super wealthy of the world are waiting for? Is waiting for more banks to fail, waiting for the recession to hit, waiting for asset prices to go down. This is when the super wealthy swoop in and they can buy stadiums. There was one in Pontiac, Michigan, when I was first starting out. The guy bought a stadium in Pontiac, Michigan for $300,000, something like $500,000. And I don't know what it turned into after that. I just thought that's damn cool. Like, I want to buy a stadium one day. It's like, this is when the wealthy, and it's easy for the wealthy to do that because they got a ton of money. Not always. Their money is usually out there in assets already, and it's cash flowing. So when asset prices go down, meaning businesses and stock market and real estate, hard assets together as well, where do these wealthy people get their money to swoop in and buy those assets at a discount? They get it from other people. They get it from banks. They get it from private equity. They get it from joint venture partners, because these wealthy people have the track record and the mindset and the skills to be able to analyze deals and assets when they're at a discount. They've got that skill. They don't need their own money. Other people are going to be like, hey, can I just bring my money to you? And then you include me on that deal? That's the challenge, Quintin, Andrew, Bill, that I put forth to you guys, is be that person who doesn't have the money, but has the skills and experience and track record so that other people are going to be like, hey, let me just ride this dude's coattails, right? So you don't need capital. You need knowledge. You don't have to worry about interest rates. You got to make money in the buy. Don't worry about the recession. May or may not happen. Actually, if it does happen, which would be great, that's when you go shopping. Right? Bill, you got your hand up? Are we okay to stick around for a little bit longer, Kurt?
We'll take last 2 questions from Bill and Rob.
Okay, so let me do a quick plug. Let's continue this conversation on Wednesday. It's free, so don't get your panties in a bunch. Here's my register link. Okay, so I'll put it in the chat here, and then please bookmark it and then join me on Wednesday and let's keep the conversation going. And send this to everyone. Okay, so please bookmark that, or better yet, get yourself registered for that. And let's continue this open conversation, and you can hear other people's stories as well. So Bill, my friend, what's holding you back?
Just a quick question. Like, say somebody comes to you and say, okay, Roel, want to invest in Florida. So do you kind of look at what kind of budget they have? Like, what kind of properties are you looking at? You know, some people want to do short-term vacation rentals. You just showing like a small unit there. You know, there's single families. Like, what kind of properties are you buying with investors out there? Like, whatever they are comfortable with, whatever the budget shows. Like how are Canadians to scale down there too? As a side question. Like, I want a vacation rental that I could short-term use at the same time. I think that's what most Canadians want, you know, to start out. But at the same time, you know, if those other deals come up, why not use them too at the same time, right? So, like, if a Canadian comes to you, what are you suggesting they look at? Like, what kind of properties?
Very straightforward. Good. The strategy I highly recommend, exactly like you said, get a vacation rental. Understand this, your first property in Florida is not going to be your last. It doesn't have to be your grand palace. It's just something to give you a foothold. So you want to set up a base of operations in Florida. So just get a good enough property. Whatever good enough is, that's up to the individual to define, you know. So you get a vacation rental, one that you can use for yourself when you're down here, and then you can rent out to others when you're not. Effectively, having other people pay for your trips down to Florida. And if you set your structure up properly, in Canada, you can actually write those trips off as business expenses, legitimate. I'm not saying business expenses. I'm like, dude, this is legit. Like, become the business owner that you want to be. Don't look for loopholes or shortcuts anymore. Okay, so that's the first strategy. Humble vacation property you can use for yourself and then rent out to others. Let them pay for all the expenses and for your trips down here. Once you have that, Bill, the world is your oyster. That's the cool thing. Remember, what you're getting from me is number one priority, lifestyle. You got to be enjoying the journey, smell the flowers, enjoy the sun, sand, and palm trees. So when you have the one established, celebrate. Book the place for yourself for a week, 2 weeks, 2 or 3 months if you want. Live like a local. And feel like this is it. Like, I'm not waiting for when I'm a grown-up. You guys are already grown-ups. No more someday in the future. Someday I'm going to be sitting on a beach in South America with Rob, eating fresh seafood, grilled right on the beach there. Why does that have to be someday? Why not as soon as possible? So again, going back to Bill's point, get that fun vacation property. Once you have that base of operations, book some time to be present here for an extended stay, and then drive neighborhoods. You know, go to the beach, enjoy the lifestyle, start to look around as you'll see the infrastructure going up. You'll see the new commuter train that's going from Miami all the way to Orlando will be extended to Tampa. You'll see all this stuff as an investor, as a business owner, entrepreneur. You're like, wow, there's stuff happening here. And then all you need to do is just get one more property, and then maybe a multifamily, and then maybe a commercial, maybe you buy a business. After that, world's your oyster. But the one sticking point for most people is, how do I get that first one? And I say, lower your expectations and make that one a very achievable, doable first one. And then use all these other concepts and strategies that you're learning here with Thrive. Creative finance, wholesale, short-term rentals, income properties, right? And then apply it. Rob L from Ecuador.
No. Yeah, the biggest thing, guys, I'm a big numbers guy. The most important thing is to do your numbers on these properties. Roel has given you a great example of a property where he did his numbers and the numbers worked. All these people are going to tell you that things don't work. Well, out of 100 properties, always remember, you're probably only going to find 10 or so where the numbers might work. And then when you do your analysis, you might only find 3 where the numbers actually work. And you're only able to make a deal with the vendor on 1 of those.
Very good point.
It's about access to cash, not about the rate. You do your numbers, and even if you have to buy the thing on a credit card, which I have done, okay, as long as the numbers work, that's your key. It's getting into the habit of doing the numbers and not getting discouraged.
Yeah, very good point. So, and doing the numbers, I'll take it a step further, Rob. It doesn't cost you anything.
No, not at
Right?
all.
So you got to ask yourself, am I really analyzing enough properties to find these deals? And then beyond that, once you have your initial offer accepted, you know, Rob, the negotiation doesn't stop there. You're anticipating with bated breath that inspection report to come back. This is if it's like a more of a traditional one where you can actually go and continue to negotiate, right? But if it's an off-market deal, you also think about, well, what other ways can I cash flow this property? And that comes to more strategies, right? But this one's got to go to sleep. It's our nap time. So it's been great, you guys. Thank you very much. Any burning comments, questions while you got me? But because I think Kurt's going to kick us off soon.
Sorry, I have a child who's hungry as well.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So make sure you do register for the session. I'll put it up on the Facebook group as well if you didn't have a chance to register already. Should be a lot of fun, more insight.
And please share it with your friends. Like, I mean, you got a taste of my coaching style. It's pretty blunt and in your face. And any questions that come up, I'll tell you the good, bad, and the ugly. But yeah, this is a first. I'm kind of experimenting with my snowbird community, is just opening it up, and I just want to hear what's holding you guys back.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Enjoy your weekend, and we will catch you guys next week.
Have a great week, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you
Rob.
all.
Thanks, Rob.
Take care. Bye.